Look, I think this is a huge overreaction in terms of the market. The market is fearing the worst. The calculations we've done so far, with all the borders closed globally, we are talking about just 15,000 barrels per day of lost jet fuel demand. Sure, Europe could potentially kind of come up with a bigger kind of blanket ban for travel to South Africa. Even then, you are talking about a few, like 10, 20,000 barrels per day of jet fuel demand. The big routes, the transatlantic, that remains open, that's kind of the biggest driver for a lot of that jet travel. And Asia still reopening, hasn't really kind of, we haven't seen that start up, say, between long-haul flights between Asia and other parts of the world. So that's not going to get severely affected to begin with. But look, this is the market pricing in the worst possible scenarios.
Where should oil be if this is a blip, if this is something that is graspable and conquerable, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are lots of ifs, but like you said, if it turns out that the vaccines are perfectly effective against this new variant, prices should be above $80. You know, the SPR really showed us we've had 65 million barrels of global SPR release outside of China, and prices rallied $2. Compare that to 2011 when we had Libyan outage, 60 million barrels of SPR when prices went down $10. It tells you how strong the market is right now, how low stocks are. We've got the OPEC Plus meeting coming up. If these concerns around demand persist, it is likely that the group is going to consider pausing output increases anyway, so that puts a floor under prices. But fundamentally, we should be above $80 unless demand really takes a hit.
So does this, so Amrita, just expanding on that, the market moves we're seeing here and the risks to oil demand demonstrated by the threat, at least, of this virus variant, that plays into the OPEC argument that there are risks of oversupply for parts of 2022, does it?
Absolutely, and this is why OPEC Plus have been cautious. This is why OPEC Plus have been very clearly only increasing production by 400,000 barrels per day, or their quotas by 400,000 barrels per day, even though the White House and other consumers had been calling for a bigger increase in production. They've been talking about the winter. They've been talking about, look, there could be potential mobility restrictions, and their own numbers show really big stock builds. Now, of course, you've had the SPR release, which balloons their Q1 stock builds further to about 3 million barrels per day. Now, these are way higher than our numbers, but this is why OPEC Plus have been cautious. And I think today's move justifies their actions so far and does call into question why the White House and other consumers released SPR going into a season which is bound to have uncertainties around demand.